Hello everyone. Welcome to Life Support Live, the weekly live Star Trek show that helps you to boldly go into your own life to better the world and the rest of humanity. I think that's what we do.
Well, I think there was a famous Starship commander who once said something like that. And as someone who is boldly going to a convention near me right now, I also remember another famous Starship captain who once said, wherever our mission takes us, we will try to have a little fun along the way.
That is right. And while we have Larry on an away mission, we're still having a little bit of fun here at Life Support Live at our special time. I am psychologist Dr. Ali Mattu.
And I am Dr. Trek, Larry Nemecek. One of us is a real doctor.
And one of us is in a real place right now. Dr. Trek, welcome. On location, while we kind of explain what we're doing today. Well, actually, before we do that, let me explain what we're doing today, and then I'll check in with you. Today, we're doing a watch along. This is Star Trek Deep Space Nine, one of our favorite episodes, Season 6. Episode 19, In the Pale Moonlight. Season 6, Episode 19. While we get the show started, boot it up, get Season 6, Episode 19 of Deep Space Nine ready, In the Pale Moonlight. Larry, where are you beaming in from today?
I am beaming in from an unused corner of the restaurant at the LAX Marriott. Well, you wouldn't know it. You'd think I was back in Trekland HQ, but I'm here, so if you hear the occasional noise and general rumble, that's what's going on. So Gallifrey 1, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, Who conventions in North America is happening behind me, and this was the last live convention I was at, right on the eve of shutdown 2 years ago. But it's back, it's at half scale, and everybody is masking. I'm not on camera. Now I'm on camera. There we are. We're masking, and everybody had to show Vax records and all of that, and it's all British, Who and American people. So, but there's a lot of Trek here. There's some Trek, and my friend Sean is the top dog here, and I've come for 10, 12 years because he said even Who people have other interests, Larry, and there's a lot of fun. And it's LA, so it's just get in the car and drive down. So it's easy to go. So I'm glad everybody was patient and I'm glad we can have our show today just a couple of hours later. So everybody, this is for me. Thank you for indulging if you're a regular. And if you're a newcomer, we normally don't do this at noon. We normally do it at 10 a.m.
Although we did when we started the show, we did it at noon for a few weeks, and it wasn't sustainable on my end with a toddler, and so we kind of moved it earlier. But
we went earlier for all the young fathers out there on the staff.
Yeah, all one of them. But this is it's a little nostalgic meeting at this time, Larry. In some ways it's easier, in some ways it's harder. I'm glad we're able to make it work. And for folks that are just jumping in, we're doing a watch along today, as you can see from our video title right over there. We're doing In the Pale Moonlight. We're going to be watching it together. The way this works, there's a lot of
We're apparently doing lowercase In the Pale Moonlight, however. So
we are, not the uppercase version.
Yeah, this is the low-res version. It's the one without capital letters.
There's a lot of tech involved. We're teching the tech here. And we're coming in from many locations, but it's pretty simple. What you want to do is you want to get the version of this episode that you have. It might be the DVD. It's not the Blu-ray, but it might be the DVD. It might be Netflix, might be Paramount Plus. Whatever you got, VHS, whatever you got, pop it in, get it queued up. We'll start playing at the same time. We're going to watch it together. We're going to talk about it. But before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit about this episode, Larry, while people get this queued up. We also have a question from Zahir. Any Treklenders or lifers at the WhoCon, Larry?
I don't think there's any lifers here. Jarrod was going to be here today, and apparently Southwest screwed him up and screwed some other folks up.
Oh, no.
So, yeah. I have one Portale who is normally here. I haven't seen her yet if she's here. They're normally, this is so popular, it's almost like a mini San Diego Comic-Con. They always sell out of tickets because they refuse to go bigger. They've maxed out
Oh.
at the hotel. They've maxed out at 3,800 paid ticket fans, and then there's dealers and guests on top of that. And this year they went half size. They're only doing 1,900 instead of 3,800, and it's a much different vibe. Still, people having a good time, but they, as a bow to COVID. But it's not the hugest convention, even when it's full. So it's, it's humble and cozy. And but there is Trek here, and the LA clubs are here that are Trek oriented. So yeah, but no other. I don't. If there's a lifer here, jump in the chat and tell me. Oh wait, maybe you're in a panel. You don't know.
So, Larry, this episode is very high on our list. In fact, I remember very much the first time you and I met at the WonderCon panel many years ago. This was an episode you and I both talked about on that panel as an example of Star Trek really digging in deep into some really deep, meaty issues that have a lot of current day relevance.
I believe the technical term was deep.
Yeah. It still has a lot of real world relevance, as particularly with what's happening in Ukraine or what's about to happen in Ukraine, with evidence about rationale for war. It has a lot of personal relevance. But I want to kind of step back and I just want to ask you, what was your impression of this episode when you first saw it, or when you were first exposed to it, if you remember?
Yeah, no, I can't remember if I saw the script early, because this is back in the day. This is 6th season, and Janet was still working on Voyager, so it might have been. But whether I saw it early or saw it when it aired, I remember thinking, wow, they really went there. I don't think the impact of it hit me as much on first viewing as it has years later, and getting out of a vacuum and realizing what it meant in the real world and what it meant to other fans, and just having a little bit of distance. I mean, it's amazing. I almost remember about, Cisco punching spoilers. The whole it's a fake meme, or it's a meme fake.
Yeah.
All of that's like legendary now wasn't such a big, when you first watched it, you didn't know what was going to be what. And I just remember part of it was like, well, thank God they're finally going to do something with the Romulans, and not just because everybody there used to be a big thing about the Romulans from the time that Patrick in Insurrection's script development in '97, when Michael Pillar's original idea, and we've talked about this before, I think, Insurrection was originally going to be about Romulans and going upriver. It was going to be a Heart of Darkness using Romulans. And when Patrick said, oh, the Romulans are boring, after that, and they didn't, and that's where the Baku and the Sona came from.
Right.
And in the minute they got away from that, Romulans were a big thing in Nemesis.
Yep.
Romulans were a thing in totally different bunch of people running the franchise. Romulans were the initial villains in Star Trek 09.
Yep.
Romulans have been big in Picard, But there was a notion as the next gen Berman era went along into DS9 that Klingons and Cardassians are really interesting, and Romulans are just like mean Vulcans. And there was, and the guys in the overly padded things, and it's kind of sad because they deserved more.
Yeah.
But anyway, they were totally like neglected in the whole Dominion War arc. They were kind of like out there, and they used them for neutrals or not neutrals in the way. And this finally brought them in, and they still were not a big part of the picture. It was still the Klingons and Federation show. But I remember thinking, well, it's about time they did something with the Romulans and treated them with some respect and all of that, and got into some Romulan culture. Oh, some senators and all that. And I think that was hitting me way more than, not that I'm a shallow person, than the whole personal dilemma, the self-loathing that Cisco goes through. That, and the fact that they were just using the personal log format as a frame.
Yeah.
All structural head stuff here, nothing out of the heart. And it took a time or two to go, oh, okay, that's pretty bleak.
I think I had a similar experience as you, Larry, where
they're churning these out. They're churning them out.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like, let's look back and look at the whole run of the show now and pull out the classics and why. It was like, here's the next show, here's the next show, here's the next show. And it wasn't like Trials and Tribulations. Oh my God, everybody knew that was special.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no,
it was just another.
it was just the next week's episode. Yeah, I remember when this first aired, watching it and thinking, wow, that was very different. And my first impression of it was much more about, oh my gosh, the Romulans are coming into the war, and what this means for Cisco, what it means for the Federation with the war. When I watched it again, probably watched it again 5-6 years later. At that point, I was picking up on much more of what this meant for Cisco, and what this meant for him as a captain, as a father, all of that sort of stuff, having to take these actions to protect his crew, protect his family, protect the station, the quadrant. And then when I watched it again, after I was a psychologist, I saw much more a deeper commentary on rationalization, cognitive dissonance, motivated interviewing, or motivated reasoning. What was that, Larry?
I would hope. He said, after I became a psychologist, I was like, well, I would hope so.
And
I realized it. And then a 4-year-old girl came up to me and said, "Did you realize?"
Well, and now I watch it, and I appreciate the artistry of the episode too, breaking the convention of the way most episodes are filmed. Here we have Cisco talking, directly to camera. It's like he's making a vlog or something for YouTube. It's so different, and I think this episode has. It's such the my favorite episode of TNG is Tapestry. My favorite episode of DS9 is In the Pale Moonlight, and there's so the other coins, the other side of the coin of the Federation, and of what do you do when what's it like to be in a utopia when things are going well? That's TNG. What's it like to be in a utopia when things are not going well? In the Pale Moonlight, DS9. So I love how this has a lot to say about how far someone is going to try to protect their life and what that means for all of us. It's a wonderful episode. So, folks.
It pushes for all the people that said DS9 shouldn't do war stories. Gene didn't want to do war stories and space battles. And Ira was like, well, there's nothing more human than how we have to deal and react to war. It's not always peace and dream. But this is like this is the episode for all of you that said, oh, if you do a war series, a war arc, it's going to take Star Trek to a dark place. It's like, well, then Pale Moonlight said, hold my beer. Like, how about just one episode? Just one episode out of all the war stories.
Yeah, and I think this episode, it sort of has a Private Little War type of ending as well, where, the last thing the captain says just so stays with you, and just makes you go, oh, I need to talk about this, and I need to think about what Kirk just said or what Cisco just said. We talk about this a lot, about how DS9 is so TOS, and I see an episode like this as one of those where really it ties back to something like a Private Little War. I really love this episode.
It was like like watching original series as a kid after school, every day. Mm-hmm. And on the second or third or fourth go around is when things start to sink in after you've seen the initial story. Mm-hmm. And that time when I realized, oh, at the end of City on the Edge of Forever, Kirk, he just said, let's get the hell out of here. It sounded totally normal, but I was getting savvy enough to realize this is TV, and this was the 60s.
Yeah.
And I was watching it a few years later, but it still wasn't common to cuss. But then at the end of Private Little War, like you just said, when Kirk says, beam us up, Mr. Scott, we're very tired. He says, I'm putting too much energy into it. He says, beam us up, Mr. Scott, we're very tired.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not it's slapping. It's like not a happy ending, not a laughing Flintstones ending. Oh my God.
Yeah. It's unique.
So Pale Moonlight said, here, hold my canar. Yeah.
Oh my God. Alrighty, folks, just to refresh things, Larry live from, what's it called? The WhoCon?
Gallifrey 1.
Gallifrey, that makes a lot more sense.
Yes.
Larry coming in live from Gallifrey 1, me here at the Psych Show headquarters. You all at home, wherever you might be, we are watching Deep Space Nine, Season 6, Episode 19, my favorite episode of DS9, In the Pale Moonlight. Folks, get it ready, get things going. Libby says, hold my canar as I run to the bar to talk to Damar. And Nathaniel also said... Nathaniel also said, is there an addendum to the drinking game, drink when Cisco drinks? You know, he holds that drink a lot. I don't know. We'll find out how much he actually drinks it as we watch this.
He finally has it at the end, yeah.
Yeah, I think he might have like a sip.
I think someone, you know what? Somebody in my column in the paper magazine, which I never ever plug. I always forget to plug it. But the Star Trek magazine just rebooted as Engage something. Someone asked me and said, what is he actually drinking?
Oh, interesting question.
You know, and I was like, who knows? But the script it's clear. And the script direction says that it's Scotch. So there's your K3 for the day.
I was not expecting a K3, and here we go.
Maybe we'll have anyway.
Alrighty, folks.
Go along.
Here we go. Larry, do you want to count us in here?
I guess so. And I try to count down in Klingon, and I would try to count down in Romulan, but I can't. So I'm going to just say, everybody ready? 1, 2, 3.
Here we go. In the Pale Moonlight.
You already have a sense that this is going to be a different episode.
Oh, the music, the visual.
Well, but we now know that when you record your captain's log, it's like 7 feet in front of you. They have really good resolution on the recorder.
I mean, I'm assuming these logs are all audio. All right, I'm already beginning. I've already got a counselor's log here. He is doing something right now that we often talk about. When you keep thinking about something over and over, you're ruminating, you can't talk to other people or you don't want to. Working through that in a narrative, either through journaling, through talking out loud like this, it can be a very helpful thing to get you unstuck. There you go. Counselor's log. Less than a minute into the episode. K3 before we even started.
I'm going to try to keep eye contact with him. This was feeling very real too. It's like it's a simple graphic on a board, and just having regulars and extras come up and do that was feeling very. It was a very low budget way to make the war feel very, very heavy.
I also, there's a few things here I really appreciate. So one is you hear more about the same ships over the course of Deep Space Nine. So the Cairo, I don't know if we've heard about the Cairo before, but they do that often. It gives an impression more of a fleshed out universe here. Even though we've never seen these ships, we've heard about them.
Can I just say something here?
Please.
So there are people who live and die by this line right here about the Jem'Hadar crossed the border into Romulan space. Mm-hmm. And people say, well, then that means that the maps that have evolved, like that I've worked on, can't be true because Cardassian and Romulus are across the Federation from each other. So how could this happen? No, folks. The Federation the Dominion is doing like a big north sweeping move. And the fact that there's a border with the Dominion, it's not the Cardassian Romulan border, it's the Dominion Romulan border, meaning it's all the captured territory. And in the retcon that I did to make this make sense, there's a border. It's like the North swoop. It's like if the Nazis if Germany had taken Canada, or if Russia ever attacked us and was coming down through Alaska. I mean, it's that kind of thing. It's a big sweep. So normal borders, here's our lovely intro title.
Oh, yeah.
People cite that exchange all the time and say, well, this doesn't make sense because they don't border, or we have to redraw the maps, because they're thinking peacetime Cardassia and peacetime Romulus. And that's not what it is. It's like captured territory, Dominion, and that border. And this had been neutral So for the time being, the Dominion was respecting their neutrality, but they were starting to push it. So anyway, I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah.
I see that all the time.
Larry, that sounds very, very relevant for 2022. Talk of borders, of border aggression, of pushing borders, of alliances, all of this sort of
And
stuff.
pushing and probing at people who are nominally not at war,
Yeah.
but someone looking for a fight. Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is, this is Terry Farrell on the credits here, and Nathaniel mentioning how great Terry is in this episode. I 100% agree with you. It's beautiful to see her relationship with Cisco, all the history, everything we know. I mean, Dax has been in war before. Dax knows all of this stuff. Dax has a special relationship with Cisco, and their relationship is really, really well done here. And to see the pairing of Cisco and Garrick in this episode, a very uncomfortable alliance between those two individuals.
Yeah. Was it Strange Bedfellows? Which was an episode.
I know. All right, here we are. We are about 4.5 minutes in, starting the episode here.
It's the left side of his office. Look, it's the side door.
Larry, these uniforms are so great. It's been a while since I've seen these First Contact era Starfleet uniforms. They look great.
Yep, it's like they're somehow darker to fit the mood of the show. More subdued. They're good for fighting Borg, they're good for fighting Dominion. Whenever you want to be in a real serious Starfleet mood, these are the best.
They're crossing my backyard to give the Federation a bloody nose. I love it. This is also great where Cisco's going in thinking arguments are going to win the day. And that's one of the things that we've seen time and time again, whether it's anti-smoking campaigns or COVID vaccination campaigns. Facts are not going to win the day with the majority of people. You need to tap into and understand what are the core values of other people and revolve your whole argument around that, which is Cisco's journey here talking to Dax. Oh, she's such a good Romulan.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Michael Taylor wrote the script to this. Michael Taylor is going to be our guest on Portal 47 this month on guest night.
Whoa, almost as if we planned that, which we totally did not.
Michael Taylor, who wrote the story for The Visitor.
Nathaniel says he hates the uniforms, the gray down the color in people's faces and overemphasized shoulders.
Exactly.
Nathaniel, I'm surprised. Usually we're on the same wavelength here.
I saw, who was it? Nathaniel had this theory here. TNG is equal to TOS Season 1, DS9 equal to Season 2, Voyager equal to TOS Season 3. Here we go. The Uneasy Alliance going here. Cisco eye rolls. Cisco does head turns.
I love how Cisco does pull him in and be like, you must have top secret information, access to top secret information that can pull the Romulans into the war, right?
Go to Cardassian Prime. Oh, Andy may be here this weekend. I know Dominic is. They've actually got 2 or 3 Trek people. And I just dawned on me. I think Andy's here. Andy Robinson.
I don't know if anyone watches the YouTube series Pitch Meeting, but it's basically, it sort of just makes fun of pitches for movies, like what would they have been like, and one of the catchphrases is that's like super simple, barely an inconvenience. I feel like that would fit in right over here. Oh, you want me to go to Cardassia Prime, get top secret information, bring it back, share it with you, and use that to bring the Romulans into the war? That's probably going to be pretty difficult. No, actually, it's going to be super simple, barely an inconvenience. We'll just fake it.
I like how Garrick has like his resource and brownie point book that he can go and like assign points to. This would use up all of my
This will use
points
up
on
all of them,
Cardassian.
yeah.
I have it all over here carefully, digitized and boxed, so I can do with it.
I'm already involved in a very messy, very bloody business. That's
It's called Galactic War. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is for folks that are just joining us. We're about 9 minutes into Star Trek Deep Space Nine's In the Pale Moonlight, season 6, episode 19. So I think this gets to some of the motivational reasoning stuff I was talking about, Larry. Is we need to understand what are Sisko's motivations here. He is trying to preserve not only the Federation but Klingon, the whole alliance. Losing a lot of people. His primary motivation is to do whatever he can to stop this war, to end it. My cause was righteous. Here we go again. Like, when things feel sanctified, when they feel like they are, they resonate with your core values. Yeah, whenever something feels righteous, you can rationalize a ton of stuff behind it.
So priority ones from Starfleet are not good.
This Larry hit me hard when I first watched this. They invaded Beta Z?
Joel. Yeah. Yes.
The 10th.
Of course, the most important thing out of this whole episode is that now we know that Beta Z has colonies. No, I'm just...
Less than 10
I'm just
hours.
Beta Z didn't see it coming. A planet of telepaths and empaths, and they didn't see it coming.
That's
Those
tough.
are official 24th century Taylor tools.
Zahir says, I always wondered how Deanna Troi took the fall of Beta Z. Probably not well. I think most Betazoids probably didn't take it well, given how compassionate they are. I imagine it's...
There was a canon, there was a licensed but not, canon novel called The Battle of Beta Z, I think.
Oh, wow.
Talked about this very... I think Will and Deanna were the featured people with Loxana in it.
Speaking of a tailor, Scott says, I love when uniforms are modular, like the one for Sisko, when you can take off a jacket, roll up the sleeves, or put on a different vest. Unfortunately, it was usually saved just for the captains. Why? Why is that? Well, captain's prerogative, Scott.
Yes. This was... I really wish I had more of a memory of watching this the first time, because Garrick sits there and says, it's all off camera, it's all Greek. Well, when he says, I had 8 contacts on Cardassia, and now they're all dead within a day of talking to me. It's really, that is chilling. It's easy and cheap because there's no makeup to do, no budget. But, with 3 or 4 lines of dialogue, he's just... the chill of this episode is just getting darker and darker. Or the darkness of this episode is just getting chiller and chiller.
So here's another thing. I'm going to slip in a little bit more psychology here. We've got a little bit of a foot and door technique happening here. You start to make little steps, little decisions, and make it easier to make the bigger decisions. You ask someone to put a small pin on their shirt to support a political cause. Makes it easier to ask them to put a lawn sign up, stuff like that. What we see here is slowly Sisko is compromising on some of the things that he would usually do, like asking Garrick to take these steps. But because he's asked him to do small things, it's making it easier to make that big ask later. And I think it's going both ways, Larry. Garrick is similarly trying to get Cisco to move in the direction that he wants. They're both manipulating each other towards a similar endpoint.
Mhm.
There's some things I'd rather not discuss.
Rather not discuss.
V-neck. I do always love, since we're on the topic of uniforms, somehow this episode has become about uniforms. I really always love Garrick's costume.
Yeah.
A lot of the civilians look ridiculous in Star Trek, but Garrick usually's got a great costume.
Well, it's always fun to look around his shop and see what they've got sitting out as, it's nothing, it's just set dressing, technically, but I'm sure they have to deal with wardrobe for it. But, like, where do they get it? Who builds it?
Yeah, that would be interesting, K3.
Like, it's all, I don't know, Polynesian or Indian subcontinent, Asian.
Nathaniel says, Garrick, how about Quark? Quark also has some great outfits. I think Garrick has a little bit more diversity in his dress than Quark, though.
Quark has a lot of suits.
Yes.
And tend to be, starched polos or something without a collar. In feel, the designs and the fabrics are.
So, Larry, where's Section 31 in all this?
Right between Section 30 and Section 32. That's a good. You know what? I had never stopped to think about that.
Well, I never thought about it.
Why is one doing the dirty work? I
never thought about it until that line of I can't approve this myself. So I'm thinking, well, so he's got to go to Starfleet Intelligence. He's got to go to Admiralty, who goes to Intelligence. Like, someone is approving this, and there's no way Section 31 wouldn't be aware of any of this.
Why do I feel like if Section 31 knew about it, they would want to do it themselves? Unless there was a strategic, like, if Garrick and Cisco know players and their plan seems sound, they continue to let them proceed. Instead of taking it over themselves, if it's somewhere between the ego of doing it themselves and the plausible deniability of letting these other players, if they succeed, great. If they fail, oh well, it's just one of our old known Cardassian operatives that we've kept under observation. And Cisco, who would be a loss, but oh well, his kid will grow up. Nobody cares.
I mean, you could go with the idea that Garrick is really working with Section 31 on this.
You could, at least part-time. You could do that.
At least part-time. He consults with them.
It's like the whole thing of the Pegasus and the phasing cloak that breaks the Treaty of Algeron and Admiral Pressman. And is Admiral Pressman in league with?
He's an admiral, so he has to be. He's a bad
He's a bad admiral.
Yeah.
He's a bad. It's amazing that on the darkest of all the series so far, top to bottom Discovery, feels like we've got our first Dadmiral.
I love Dadmiral.
Dadmiral Vance. Because they just tried to kill Quark.
Grathon Tolar is a great Star Trek name, by the way.
Yes. Slam that pad down.
Yeah.
It's interesting how when the story is so specifically, like, this is a Cisco show.
Yeah.
A Cisco show with air quotes. And who's the number 2 character of the regular? It's Garrick, right?
Yeah.
Everybody else has their token scene. So this is like Odo and Quark's, I don't want to say token scene, but it's their 7-line scene.
It's their moment.
Right.
It's really interesting you mentioned that, Larry, because there's so much happens in these moments. Cisco and Dax. Quark's about to have like one of the best lines in the show right here, when Cisco sort of bribes him. But while there are very small moments with the rest of the cast, there's such salient moments. There's such great moments for each of these characters. Like Bashir also gets a great one. And they all seem to sort of speak to some core aspect of the characters. Their moral compass, let's say, and
Yep.
how much these characters are either they're reflecting back to Cisco, like, hey, what are you doing here? Like Quark is saying, like, I knew you human had a price. And Bashir's gonna say, like, look, I'm protesting what you are just doing. They're all serving to reflect back to Cisco, are you sure you want to do this? And Cisco marches ahead.
How much this circle? I'm sorry, I thought there was no currency and money in this. It's Ferengi. Everything is so conveniently gray on DS9. Everything.
That's true. Yes, including the uniforms.
Yeah.
I love this. What would it take to art? I love this. Cisco's face, he's like, ugh, I'm bribing a Ferengi.
Avery does not, he's an odd bird, as they used to say, and he doesn't get enough credit for his reactions. I was just realizing how he doesn't roll his eyes. He does this head turn. So, like, his reactions are...
This is another way where it reminds me of TOS. Avery Brooks and Shatner, they both give such great reactions to other actors. His react is so good. So Nathaniel says it's amazing how all the characters are implicit with Garrick. Quark takes a bribe. Odo doesn't make a report. Bashir is satisfied just filing a complaint. Everyone is doing the minimum to cover their asses, but ultimately accepting Cisco's actions.
Mm-hmm.
That could be the name of this episode too. Yeah, every man has his price.
What? Every man has his price, yeah. It's like this is the dark side or the mirror side of the MASH. It was the Adams Rib episode. In DS9, it was the baseball card episode. But it's like, even though the main thrust and the main character is involved, everybody along the way is playing they're a cog in the wheel. You know?
I love how, as Cisco is compromising, he is removing more aspects of his uniform, almost to symbolize his sacrificing of his ideals here.
Stripping his soul bare, his coverage.
And that, yes.
The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one. That's what a Vulcan would say there. Mm-hmm. Oh no, it's a turbo lift conversation. It's a Cardassian turbo lift.
Yeah, they take a long time, the Cardassian turbo.
Parading through ops. That's such a parent phrase.
Best not to dwell on such minutiae. This is such a great script.
Mm-hmm.
Larry, I often have a hard time finding optolithic data rods. They're really the supply demand issues in the pandemic have made them so hard to come by.
Well, that's because they're coming all the way from the DMZ. They're coming all the way from the Cardassian border.
That makes sense.
And I'm the real Cardassian border, not the conquered space border of Dominion. I know we're way away from it, but you remember back during the Quark scene when Quark mentions Impella, one of the Dabo girls, and they do a quick shot of her? That was Kathy DeBuono, and she was Terry Farrell's stand-in.
Oh.
And then along the way, they said they let her be a, and you see her, and she actually gets a line. They give her a name. She gets a line late in the series. But she would be kind of in the background the last half of the series.
Okay.
Even after Terry was casting. Anyway, she did double duty. When she wasn't in makeup as in the bar scenes, she was Terry's not stunt double. She was her, stand-in for lighting and blocking. little K3 that's 10 minutes late, but so what?
I do love how he says, or you can forget the whole Enterprise. It's probably the only time in Star Trek we hear the word Enterprise referred to for its actual meaning and not the ship.
I bet there's probably 2 other ones, but yeah.
Larry, I think there's another thing here that. So here we have Bashir reflecting back. What are you doing? There's another thing here I never thought about, which is Sisko has no clue what Garrick is doing, which I think shows how the Federation runs Deep Space Nine. They're not monitoring his communications. They're not imposing some type of great. Yeah, there's no great firewall here like there is in China. Garrick has the right to do these things, and Sisko is completely oblivious to them, which shows what it's like to live in a civilian station that's run by the Federation.
Well, it's a deep space station, so I think it's still it's Bajoran owned. Which is,
yeah.
The other space stations are probably all Starfleet, born and bred, built Starbase facilities, and they just assigned to make Deep Space Nine, kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Oh, Jeff.
Zahir says, aren't optolithic data rods only made on Cardassia? Garrick had this whole thing planned from the start. 100% Zahir. Garrick had his plan. He knew exactly what he was doing from the beginning.
Garrick is playing chess and checkers.
Yeah.
And Chinese checkers.
And 3D chess and 2D chess.
And 3D chess. And Parcheesi. And Monopoly. And Chutes and Ladders.
So I have one problem with this scene.
But not Risk. He'd never tackle Risk.
Larry, got one issue with the scene. There is no Kanar next to Damar.
No, there's a jar of Kanar.
Beneath the bar?
Beneath the bar. Uh-huh. But not
I couldn't tell from such afar.
If there's not a word czar, there should be. I like this. It's like, let's see your work. Let's see the craftsmanship.
I love how it was just a little bit of bickering.
See, Cardassians, for all their dreary station building, they have really colorful hologrids.
They do. I think they add, the Cardassian hologrids are capable of HDR, I think.
The green-yellow bit there, yeah.
Do we know the species, Larry?
No, this is one of those species they never told you what it was. It's a Westmore, Westmore's pulling pieces in and putting them together and going bonkers with it, because they know. I think they kind of get an idea they may not ever bring it back, so they'll go. It's painted and it's got the indentations and the holes in the skull. There's even the slightest flaw that I will send you back to that Klingon prison.
Sisko.
This is the closest thing. This is one of the closest things that DS9 gets to the airlock scene.
Oh yeah. To space him.
He slammed him up against the side there. Yeah.
I think one of the things that's going on here with Sisko is he's under tremendous stress, and he's incredibly isolated. He's got no one to talk to about this. This is why he's making this personal. Like he's ruminating, churning away at these thoughts.
All by myself, no one to solve me. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to inject.
No. It's the right song, and I think this speaks to people who are doing any type of work that they can't really, for secrecy reasons, confidentiality reasons. I mean, I experience this when I'm treating patients. you can't talk to other people about some of the things that are profoundly affecting you emotionally, and it really gets to you. It makes you irritable, it makes you stressed when you can't get the type of support we rely on, which is talking to other people about this stuff.
It's bad enough when you're just on an NDA and you can't talk about a book or a movie or or a software or an app or a game or something. Much less the fate of countries and
Exactly.
thousands, millions of people, billions of people. Well, if there's anyone on that station that you would wish that for, it's Garrett.
Section Baker. Why don't they go by Beta, not Baker?
Because this is like military. The scientists use Beta. This is Able Baker. This is military, man. This is Korean War stuff.
It's security.
It's security. That was like Worf's big scene of the day.
Yeah, he doesn't really do much in this episode.
He walks through the casualty board with Dax, but that maybe is underlined.
Oh, and he talks about the Betazoid attack.
This is so awesome. This is a hard-built miniature. They designed and built this shuttle, this Romulan shuttle. This is the first Romulan, the original series. All the, we had of the next gen, we had the Warbird, and then we had the little science ship that got used 2 or 3 different times. This was only the third Romulan ship built in all the Berman era.
That is
and then
so
they
wild.
Built all the docking bay stuff, docking bay C. Docking bay C was the most famous docking bay at DS9. This shot is just, and the fact that they extend the little thing, that's amazing. I've got pictures of this. That's just that docking tube was just a standalone tube, and they manually just filmed the guy slowly sliding it over to the craft.
I love it.
Because you noticed it with the camera. He's telling a Cardassian about developing a thick skin.
Great line.
Anyway, that little Romulan shuttle bit, they just splurged because they could.
I love it.
And they were really on the verge of doing everything. That may have been the last non-CG model built for anything, for DS9 or Voyager or anything.
This actor and his voice are perfect.
Stephen McCad.
Perfect casting.
He's so meme-worthy.
Mm-hmm.
A man who started the war with the Dominion. So if Michael Burnham is the woman who started the war with the Klingons.
Gosh, these Romulans.
I thought the Romulans were the one who did all the subtle dancing around in between the shadows. This guy comes up and says, I think all Starfleet officers are just shit. Just right out. Comes right out and tells us.
Zahir's asking, isn't this actor also Mr. Sloan? Is that true, Larry?
Mr. Sloan. Oh, no.
Section 31.
That's... that's... God. Is it Bill? Somebody will find it real fast. No, this is Stephen McCaddy, but he's been another, MC Hattie. And I'm pulling that out of my butt, but I'm almost sure that's it without looking at it. But I know he's been at least one other role elsewhere. So sorry I didn't have sidebar notes like that all sitting here as I'm fighting with my devices. And now the downside of the war report.
Yeah. Yeah, they can't compete with the Dominion.
See, what always gets me about this eventually is this is for drama.
Yeah.
But actually, what is the Romulans' motivation? The Romulans can do math and calculate just like anybody else can. Don't they get it? The Romulans are a lot like the U.S. holding out being neutral in World War II. It's like, you may not want to be in this war and be bloody now, and you may think, I'll let the Federation, the Klingons do. But what happens if they're wiped out? Then you're left. Who else is there to stand alone against this onslaught? Are you comfortable with that? You have to think that somewhere at the highest levels of the Romulan high command that are they really so arrogant to think that they'll let the rest of the quadrant deal with this? And what happens?
This is such a great. It really is such a good replica. The room is starting to grow on me. So symbolic of what's to come.
A little foreshadowing there.
A little foreshadowing. Larry, I don't know. I get the Romulans' motivation here. I mean, this is the species that was that the Federation didn't have contact with for so long.
They're not experts, and when you step back and look at the big picture, the Romulans are the worst diplomats and strategists. You know, they get beat by the humans. They allow everything they try to do to divide the allies in the very beginning doesn't work.
Yeah.
And then over the years, they go away. You know, they try the balance of terror feint, doesn't work. They go away for 100 years and hide and sulk and cower, and then they come back. I mean, yeah. Almost everything they've done, you know, the interfering in the Klingon Civil War, exposed. I mean,
all the way to ignoring the growing threat of that black hole, which does end up being their undoing.
Yes, all the way to that. I mean, you can talk about the Klingons' bluster and, you know, bullheadedness, bull in a China shop mentality, but they've kind of taken care of themselves better than the Romulans. But ooh, I'd forgotten that was there. That little
see you later logo.
Yeah.
Something that I think is so funny about Star Trek is all right, we've got this Cardassian data rod. It was running in Cardassian holosuite, but the Romulans are going to have no problem with universal compatibility here, playing the Cardassian data rod.
Well, he's going to go back to his Cardassian station room and play. You know, there's an 8-track.
Oh, okay, maybe.
Yeah.
Another one of my favorite lines is coming up right here, with him referencing his dad. Okay, like now, is he going to have a drink? No sips yet. No sips, folks.
I love how they talk about paperwork, but, you know, it's such an indelible word. It survives cultural change.
Yeah. Bureaucracy perpetuates into the 21st century. This is something that is very hard. This is something we've talked about on the show before, how sometimes our minds become overly focused on something. And sometimes the best thing you can do is throw yourself into other things to try to keep your mind from getting too focused inward. There's not a damn thing you can do about it. I love this line. Mm-hmm. Sip! There we go! He's having a sip, folks.
We're having a sip now, a little bit of scotch now. The liquid is soothing, your conscience it's smoothing. We certainly can. Spy now.
So when I was watching this episode, I didn't really think about this. If it's not accepted, what would be the consequence? The consequence would be pretty bad.
He played an alien foreman in the first season of. There we go. Sorry, I talked over it. Oh no. Dum dum dum.
I really wish we could have just the camera didn't cut there. I mean, it makes for a better episode, but I'd love to see what Sisko had to say.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, Stephen McHattie playing Vreenak there. He did play an alien foreman in the first year of Enterprise, the Xindi year of Enterprise. He got back in his shuttle. You and the shuttle you rode in on. Yeah, this is kind of a grim. Oh, look! Somebody we barely knew is the only person who died this week. Yay!
Now Cisco's connecting the dots.
They're kind of big screaming dots if you're Cisco. Yeah, we're down to plan D here. I think this is the DS9 that spent more time in the corridor than any other episode.
Yeah, we usually don't see that room very often. Here it comes. Here it comes.
Here it comes.
Boom! The Starfleet backhanded attack. Get up.
Don't need any Sui for that. Kirk Fooey, excuse me.
Yes. Love it.
Now, what color is Garrick bleeding?
Yeah.
All right, I'm ruining the whole emotional mood of the moment. This is the way my mind goes. It's like, ah. This is the episode where Garrick won the Mr. Pragmatism Award of.
Yeah, you gotta hand it to Garrick for planning all this.
2369, yeah. Or 2374, whatever. I mean, really, if they survive this, they should make Garrick president of the Federation, don't you think?
Well, maybe the current Federation president, Discovery, is a ancestor of Garrick's.
It's amazing that there is. I mean, you know what? I'm going to ask Michael about that. It's like, why did they not go? Because Section 31. You know, I know what he'll say. He'll say because Section 31 would have been easy.
Yeah.
It's like, let's let their dirty-handed guys do it, rather than let's do it ourselves, because that wouldn't have been impactful on the characters. Now, it seems weird that they could have at least had some kind of a mention. Like, Garrick could have said, why didn't you take this to your vaunted Section 31? Yeah. Or something, you know?
Yeah, I think the goal here is to show the cost of war and how it leaves even great people like Cisco, it leaves them bloodied, and it compromises their morals here.
There's another border reference, and he says Cardassian border, but I'm just saying the Cardassian border is now suddenly right up against. Because I think we should just look at it all as the Dominion is doing everything in the name of Cardassia, because they're the guys who are like nominally doing it. They haven't taken the nominal head of it away from him until the very end.
He's not wearing his Starfleet comm badge here.
Well, no, he might be traced. Somebody might know he's in his quarters. Recording log after log after log.
This is such a great script. Christoph says Section 31 already knew about the virus killing the changelings, which is a great point. Christoph, that is a great point. Maybe that was their solution. No sip there. He put the drink down.
The best is yet to come, and they will find us.
What an ending. Oh man, I really want to hit that next episode button. I love how that ends, Larry. Again, it gets to the idea of rationalization and cognitive dissonance. We want our beliefs to be consistent with our actions, but we also want our actions to be consistent with our beliefs. So sometimes when we do things that we don't believe in, we end up changing our beliefs to make them consistent with the things we just did, which is exactly what Cisco's going through here.
We write the script. We fit the, what's that phrase? Well, it's the ends justify the means, but it's like you're gonna rewrite the script to fit you're gonna change reality to fit your facts. Or whatever.
Yeah.
You're gonna try to do it.
Yeah. Folks, what a great episode here. Larry, thought?
We the reason people love this episode is we get off into this philosophical debate about what we just said, the ends justifying the means. But then I said it in the beginning, and I don't really think I've thought of it this way. What about? Is it only rationalization or justification, or is it also the Vulcans? The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one.
Yes. Yeah.
At what point? No one ever looks at the Vulcan. No Vulcan spouting that and goes, "Oh, you're saying ends justify the means."
Well,
they go, "Well, we think you mean clean means." And it's like, no. You say it's a vote. If there's 1 million over here and 4 over here, the 4 have to give it up.
No, it's a great point, Larry. I mean, the Vulcans are masters of rationalization. A lie,
two lives and 2 consciences. Yes, he says that's a small price to pay.
Yeah. We could have a whole discussion around what would Spock have done in this situation, or what would Kirk have done, what would Picard have done, Janeway. That would be a whole nother episode.
What would McCoy have done?
McCoy would have had a lot more to drink. I think that's good.
I don't care, damn it. If it's Canar you got, Canar it is. Who the hell cares? You can't have a bourbon all the time.
Or what would Michael do? I mean, Michael Burnham is not the same person pre and post those.
Michael Burnham, what year?
Well, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Michael Burnham, pre and post prison, and pre and post Mirror Universe, she's a different person. And I think early Burnham would have definitely.
She's an anthology character. Yeah.
Yeah, early Burnham would have definitely made the same choices as Cisco. I don't think she would have been as skilled at doing it because she was so rash in the beginning. I don't know what the current Burnham would do in this situation. I think early Janeway wouldn't have made the decision Cisco does. I think late Janeway 100% would. I don't know about Picard here, but I'm willing to believe that Kirk and Spock would have made the exact same choices that Cisco did here. I don't know about Picard.
Archer. What would early? Oh wait, we know what early and late Archer would have done. We saw it.
We did. Yeah, we did. Oh gosh. Well, Larry, I know you are on away mission. You've got a lot to do there at Gallifrey. So thank you for being able to contribute here, even though you are away. Next week we're going to be back to our normal time. We're also going to be back to our normal format as well. We're going to be taking inspiration from the new episode of Star Trek Discovery. Don't know what the theme there is going to be, but we'll have a fun discussion. In the meantime, Larry, where can people find you this week? And what do you got cooking at Trekland?
Well, right now I'm at the LAX Marriott, if that's what you mean. No, listen, everybody. Since I've got it here, I'll use it. Live Support Live is on every Tuesday. We've got more
Not
guests
Live
coming.
Support Live is not on every Tuesday.
Did I say that?
Yeah.
I did.
Tuesday's live.
Trekland Tuesdays Live will be back on Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific with a new topic every week. I got kind of radical last week, and I may do that again. But join me if you can live. The TTLers are there at 1 Pacific, 4 Eastern. Everywhere you're watching right now, all these Trekland channels, the same place. Also, the Trek Files is back. It's our 8th season. We're into 3 shows. We are launching a Discord channel for Trek Files because it's kind of hard for people to communicate on the Facebook page. That's coming, and that's bopping along. But also, as we reopen the pandemic and conventions are happening again, I'm starting to basically say that my Trekland Treks.
You gotta tilt that forward,
Wow.
Larry. It's all blue screened. No.
It's me.
There you go. Kind of. There you go. Kind
What do you
of.
mean? I've got the prop. It's just behind me. Okay, kind of, sort of. Wow, that's wild. Anyway, it is got the blue there. Okay. Anyway, these are our day tours. It's back there in the fake picture, if you can see it. Our day tours of filming sites around LA, and there's going to be a lot of opportunities to come to LA as things open up and people are on vacation or work business. Get with me. We'll work out a day tour for you for a fun thing. But I host you around. It's basically your own custom designed away mission, and you can go to the famous places like Vasquez and Tillman, or you can go to some obscure places. But whatever you want to do, we'll work it out. And that's treklandtreks.com if you want to see that out. Otherwise, all the same. Anyway, that's kind of what's new and fresh happening. How about you, Ollie?
Nothing much. Same old. I am at Ali Mattu on social media, and will be on the Psych Show on YouTube. And looking forward to talking more Star Trek next week. Larry, I'm looking forward to that guest you've got coming to Trekland, our author or the writer of this episode. That sounds like fun.
Michael Taylor, yeah. Well, now it's Portal 47. I should say portal47.net is my business. It's a paid thing. So, but all the portales will have Michael. They don't know it yet. I'm announcing it for the first time right here, I think. But he's our guest this month, which I'm looking forward to. Right.
And folks, until next week, please do us a favor and live long and prosper.
Oh, the music's been playing. Trek well, everybody. We'll see you next week. If not soon.
Bye-bye, folks.